Good morning, brothers and sisters. It is Tuesday, and this is, of course, the Tuesday Tune-Up. Our subject today is Francis of Assisi. We're coming up on the feast day of St. Francis, because Francis is recognized as a saint. You know a lot about him. He especially is associated with animals. But there may be more about that story that you don't know. Francis actually lived a long time ago, born in the 12th century, was the son of a very wealthy merchant. And as such, he had a lot of what we call disposable income. And so, as might be expected of the son of a very wealthy man, Francis lived a very self-pleasing lifestyle. He spent money lavishly. He had fine clothes and was always looking for the next best thing, more entertainment, more enjoyment. He, if it had been around at the time, he probably would have liked Las Vegas a lot. But Francis found that this lifestyle of seeking after his own pleasure eventually got sort of tiresome. And in a time of sort of angst and confusion, he actually thought that he heard Jesus talking to him, saying, "Francis, fix my church." Now, this took place when Francis was actually in a fairly rundown church building, and so he took God literally and decided that it was going to be his mission to fix this church. And there's a whole lot more to the story. His father doesn't really like what he's doing and ultimately winds up disowning him. And now he's the poorest of the poor, but he sees that poverty as not a burden, but a gift. And he embraces poverty in such a way that he becomes one with the people who are on the margins, because he literally is living among them. Finds himself living in the streets and begging, but he's not begging for money for himself. No, he's begging for stones that he can take to rebuild that church. I mean, he's on that mindset. He thinks God has called him to build that church. And, he goes through a number of other struggles, and his preaching to the world starts to take on some notice. And as time goes on, he has a number of guys who start to follow him, and he sort of creates an order which would then become the Franciscan order. He travels to Rome and finds his way into meeting with the Pope, where he's given papal blessing to found this order. And they live a life of complete poverty and complete service. Everything that comes into them goes right back out to help other people. It's a very aesthetic lifestyle that not too many people can live, but Francis and the Franciscans did in fact do that. Another great function of Francis is his known love for all of God's creation. He loved to be in nature. He loved to wander the hills. He loved the animals. Francis is probably best known for his love of animals. There's an amazing story about he's out with some of his friars, and they're going from one place to another to preach and to beg, and then take that money and give it to poorer people than they. And they come across a clearing, and there's a flock of birds. And Francis says to the brothers, "Wait here, I need to go and preach to my sisters and brothers." And he walks over to the flock of birds and he begins to preach to them. And the story goes that not one of them flew away. They all stayed until he was done with his preaching, and then they all flew away together. Francis had a deep connection with animals. And it's that connection that we honor throughout the church when we do a blessing of the animals on or about St. Francis Day, which happens very, very early in October. This is a tradition that many faiths practice, but here at Epiphany we do as well. And so, while I've given you a little background, this coming Saturday, October the 1st, at 3 o'clock, here in our church, our beautiful courtyard, we will do our blessing of the animals and parish picnic. There'll be wonderful opportunities for you to come get your pet blessed. If you have a pet that you've loved and you've lost, bring a picture and we can bless that relationship. This is not just about the pets, but it's about the relationship that we have with the pets and how they enrich our lives and vice versa. So come and be part of that. There'll be games for kids. There'll be wonderful things taking place, and Father Peter and I will be here looking forward to our opportunity to greet your pets and bless them. But we do this in recognition of Francis of Assisi, who loved the world so much that he chose to emulate Christ's example. And that, my friends, is really what it's about. We'll see you Saturday at the Blessing of the Animals.